Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Industry, I Guess. My name is Brooke Morrison.
I'm Tetris Kelly.
And we have a guest here with us. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself since you have 85 titles.
Hey guys, I'm Soy Nguyen. Also, I run a page called Food with Soy, full-time content creator, creative. Also used to run a fan site for K-pop Girls' Generation. I don't know, it goes on and on.
She has a list, you guys.
And that's my favorite part. I feel like we want to get to that towards the end, just because I think that's what you are like most known for. I mean, food, yes, but I like going into the K-pop space.
I feel like it's the food.
Soy
See, that's crazy. I feel like it's all the food.
Yeah, it was. Did you know that the Girls' Generation thing? Did you know
that?
Yeah,
okay, I know that, but it's just like when I think of you, I think of like how great your food content is.
That's
it's just like
because that's like current, right? But I've had people like come up to me at the gym and they come up and I think they're gonna talk about like the food stuff. Mm-hmm. They come up and they're like, hey, just to let you know, I used to follow Soshified.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then that's like 15 years ago, right? And I was like,
crazy.
How do you remember what I look like? How do you remember me? And how is that such a big impact in your life? I was like, that's crazy. Like there's so many parts of my history.
Even outside of like all of what you've done, I want to actually get personal. How do you know her?
I feel like connected over social media, right? Or like we've met through mutuals in general, and then over time.
Right, it was like at a dinner. It was after a K-pop. It was something K-pop related.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember it was at Uhyangwoo.
Yes, we had K-barbecue together. We had K-barbecue together.
K-barbecue, what a great meeting.
Who is another K-pop YouTuber. Was there with his girlfriend, and it was just kind of like a collection of people because we're all in the same space. It's going to happen. You're going to run into people. You're going to know these people, even if like you wouldn't normally know them for whatever reason. I think if you're a part of that space, which I love, like I love about K-pop in LA, you're eventually going to come into contact. So that's how
I feel like that's the best way to make friends too, like through hobbies and doing stuff. And that's literally like I was like, okay, I don't know these people, but I'm down to get dinner together, and then we followed each other, and then we just started like hanging out. I know.
Well, and I think what's funny to me is I don't even know if you would remember this, but like obviously we run in a lot of the same circles now.
Right.
But do you remember the first time we met?
I don't remember. I remember re-meeting you at the BMA Awards.
Yes, I definitely remember that. But the first time we met, this might blow your mind. I don't even remember what the name of it was.
Okay.
But it was some show I was hosting for or online content I hosted for.
Yes.
That you were a producer on.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You were like filmed me, and I had to come in and do like some pop culture news.
100 facts about Taylor Swift. 100 facts.
Yes,
I produced that. That's exactly what it is. Because I produced that show, so I picked people and I picked you, and I was like, oh my god, he has such a good personality. We need to get him on the show. And it was in a dinky little office room, and we were just filming with a DSLR. That was so much fun.
Yeah, that's years ago.
Yes, like years ago. That was like my first job in LA, actually.
Wow.
Yes.
And look at us now.
Okay, so what year was that?
Oh, who knows? Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, I think that was like around either. Okay, if that's about the time I moved to LA, I got that job around like 2014, 2015, 2016, around that time.
So wow, that's crazy. 10 years ago.
Right, 10 years ago.
That's
I'm
around
not
the time
old.
I got to LA too. So that's what's interesting though, is that at some point you're gonna meet people, especially if we all stay in LA. We've talked before about like people deciding to leave or something, but I feel like all of us that stay will eventually come into contact for one reason or another.
Yeah, I always remember one of my first jobs when I moved to LA was a Warner Brothers tour guide. And
you're perfect for that. I would love a tour from you at Warner Brothers.
Oh my God, I loved that. It was really fun. I'm not gonna lie. But
Random.
I remember at some point like being so young and moving here and having that job, and like one of the execs was like talking to the new trainees that we were at the time, and he looks at all of us and he goes, I always tell people, like, everybody in your training group, make friends with them, like lean on them. He was like, y'all are all just moving out here, but later in life you guys will be the people that like are holding each other down.
Yep.
And it's crazy, I'm not that close with everybody in that class anymore, but I know so many of them still, and I still am connected with them. And one of them runs like American Idol. One of them is like an exec here. Like it's just like and we were all just tour guides, you know. But if you stick around in LA and you go off and you all do your own thing, you eventually come back into connection with people that you've known for a decade because you've just kept grinding it out. So you have to kind of keep those relationships close to you.
Yeah, that's why it's always important to be like kind and nice to everyone around you, right? Because imagine like you weren't kind to those people and then they meet you and now you're working in the space and they're like, wow, that was a bad taste in my mouth.
Yep. I don't want to work with you ever again.
Ever again.
I've seen it happen. Karma. It comes back.
It's real.
Karma in this industry is crazy. But as long as you're moving with good intentions, you know, even if you don't really get along with somebody, you're not going to like withhold an opportunity just because like y'all aren't tight.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're like the worst person ever and you're doing the kind of stuff that everybody says Hollywood is like, that's when you don't have the bridges.
And it's so funny you say like obviously you won't withhold an opportunity from somebody, but also if you were close with that person, if you were friendly, then you're more likely to give them the opportunity or get the thing.
Yep.
And that's why I always say award show acceptance speeches. Everybody says they're corny. And when you're at home in Georgia where I grew up, or when you watch them, you're like, they all say the same thing. Thank God, follow your dreams, don't give up.
Yeah.
It's who you know, all this stuff. But the it's who you know thing, really, how many times do we know people that got jobs or got positions only because of who they know? Not that they're not talented or not good, but it was because that person already knew them.
Right.
You know what I mean? It is about relationships. It's about who you know and the other part of just sticking to your dreams, working hard. Because if you don't give up,
right, but
you'll end up somewhere.
And then eventually somewhere you want to be. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get. Just keep going.
Sorry, now I'm off my soapbox of the day.
I love it.
We gotta get to soy.
Soy.
And okay, so I want to start with food because that is the main thing that you're doing now and have been for a long time, I think, or at least for the past like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I think
maybe?
full time, 4 or 5 years for sure.
So what made you pivot into that? Was it like posting one thing and you saw it pop off, or do you just love food? Like, what is it for you?
Honestly, when I moved here from Florida, I had no friends. And when you have no friends, I was just grinding at my job, the job that I met you at. Every day I would come into work at like 9 a.m. and I wouldn't leave until like 12 a.m. Like my whole, and it wasn't because they wanted me to, it's because I was like, oh my gosh, I got to put my heart and soul into this, right? And eventually after a year of it, I was like, I really need to get out there and like make friends and do things. And I was like, the one thing I love most is like food. So I just went around and I started taking pictures on Instagram. And at that time there was a small pool of like Instagram food creators. And we became like friends, which was like really cool. And then it became like a side hobby type of thing where I was going around to different restaurants. Just the opportunity at that time was just really fun to go out there and meet people and also like get free food, right? That was what I was about when I started it. And it was just like a fun little hobby. And it wasn't until the pandemic. At that time, I was working at Disney ABC, my corporate job, and it became a thing where I got back from a trip from Asia, and all my friends are like big like YouTubers, and they were just able to live their life and freely do everything. And I was like, you know what? Like I've always been like really interested in food. Like I need to give myself the opportunity to actually do something about it, because before that, my dream was to work at Disney. So being able to do that and be like, oh well, you know what? Dreams can change.
Yeah.
At any point of your life, and I was so happy because I was like, this isn't my dream anymore, and I need to like follow my path.
Interesting.
Even though she just made me sad because my dream is still to work at Disney.
I know, and I've worked at Disney as well. I feel like we always have this like between you and me, then between you and
yes,
you
we
and
did
me.
Disney.
We've always talked about like our time at Disney or how we love Disney or something like that. Sorry guys, Disney adults, it's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. My question for you is like, I feel like the original food influencers were like Yelpers, right? I think Yelp is still important.
I was like Yelp.
Yeah.
I was like hella Yelp.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. Did
Yeah.
you like? Were you also getting like invited to restaurants because you were like Yelp review? Because I know sometimes people invite Yelpers to restaurants, right?
I think that was like very separate from my food blog, because even food blogging at that time was such a different space than it is right now. Like people used to, it was like the time where there was like flaming hot Cheeto burritos and like rainbow cheese
like
melts.
doing different
Right,
things,
right. And like at that time, I was like the only person where in a space that's all like photos, like videos was not a thing on Instagram at that time. I was like, oh, I want to put my face in the photos with food. So I was like known to like take pictures with food and like go like this and just like have a bunch of food and then like have the dishes there. And
most people don't want to put their face.
Yes, that was the thing.
Stuff.
And I think everyone that was kind of making fun of it kind of in the back end. And I was like, no, like I feel like that's what makes my page stand out, right? Like I can grow really fast and just feature viral content, or I can really put a face and like a personality. Even at the time there was no video, I was like, I just know that there's like something there where I really have to attach myself with that and not just let the content be like the food. And then when the pandemic happened, I really focused on, you know, like there's two things that I'm really good at, which is finding really good restaurants that are culturally different. I was never really into like, you know, the rainbow grilled cheeses and all that stuff. I was more about like learning about like Nigerian food or trying Vietnamese, you know, sharing about my culture and Vietnamese food. And that's always been like, I think the core of what my identity has been always with my food page. And I was like, this is a time where those communities need extra support during the pandemic, where, you know, people are there's a lot of things going on top of the fact that like restaurants are not being able to open full time. So I was like, let me go around and like feature, you know, these spots and show people like, hey, their takeout situation, how you can order.
Love that.
Yeah, and it was really, everything's so timing related because at that time there was this little app called TikTok that was starting to pop up, but people knew it as like a dancing platform and like making skits and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? No, like I grew up watching Food Network and these travel channels, and I never saw that representation growing up. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? At that time, I wasn't really confident about being on camera. I was like, but I do have the production background. I went to school for production. Right, so I was like, I know how to edit videos. Yeah. Why don't I just try to make these videos 30-second long? Because at that time, that's what people were watching. The limit, I think, was like 30 seconds. Like that's all you can post it on TikTok at that time. And I was like, let me try to make these like food adventure videos where I go out, I help these small businesses, I show people what to eat, how, you know, what it looks like for them, and get people like excited for like these experiences again. And my channel started growing, and I was like, wow, this is great. Like it's aligned correctly. You know, I did it in the correct manner of like not aiming to do it for the speed of virality or like to get views, but really with the intention of like helping.
Yeah.
I think that's such a beautiful thing because, like, even if, as we see now, restaurants are closing down and stuff because there's still ramifications from the pandemic. And
Rest in peace, Inner Crew, by the way. But yeah, go on.
What?
Yes.
That's new. We'll talk about that after the podcast. What?
Yeah, very sad.
But, like, I even think about, like, how you said, like, how many businesses you probably helped change their trajectory because you posted, like, look at this cool food item and look at they have takeout. And people say, oh, my God, I'm going to go order from them, you know? And it helps that business grow when they might not have been getting a lot of orders. So I just think that's awesome that you jumped in at that specific time.
Yeah, it wasn't a space that was like that. And now I feel like there's so much more of it, which is great. But then sometimes I look at how the industry has kind of shifted a lot, and it's a little bit scary sometimes when you look at it.
Yeah. So how have things shifted in the way of like food trends? Is it kind of cyclical, or do you see it kind of like trending down in a sense, just like content creation, restaurants, all that?
I think we're still in a space where it's almost like the wild, wild west, right? Like the frontier is still, I don't think like a lot of people, like I personally don't charge like small businesses or go out there and like everything I feature, I pay for my own food. I go there because I'm interested in it and I want to feature it. Yeah. I don't ever go because like I'm getting paid to, or even restaurants like want to pay me to come in and I'm like, no, like.
That's weird.
Yeah, because like I know like the big brands, they can afford to pay me like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a video, right? Yeah. And that's why all my other content is I'm able to do for free. And that's why I'm like, no, like I want to help these small businesses. Yeah. But I do know there's like so much content creators out there now, or people that want to be content creators because they're like, oh, I'm interested in food, I want to do that. And they're charging businesses. And that's a very, I think, a sensitive topic. At first I was very like, oh, like, I'm not about that. You shouldn't charge small businesses. But then I was thinking about it recently, and I'm always evolving and thinking about these things. Yeah. And I noticed that, like, if you look at how the world has shifted, these restaurants used to have to pay for, like, newspaper spots, radio spots, you know, ways to advertise.
And now the influencer is the way to do it.
Exactly. It's like, so
wow,
that's
I see what you did.
It opened my mind a little bit because instead of thinking, like, not like down, but I was just like, it's just not something I do, right? I was able to open my eyes because there are people that I feel like I'm in a very, you know, privileged, good position since I started so early, and I've worked my way up for so long that I can comfortably do this as a full-time job. But some people are still, you know, making their ends meet and, you know, helping these small businesses, but then they also want like a small price, whatever. I feel like it's shifted a lot, and I think it's always evolving, and I'm just kind of like looking at it from like a stance of like, giving everyone that empathy and space to like, okay, as long as the intention is to help the food space continue to grow and like have people like want to eat out and stuff, I feel very, very happy about that.
Because people are in the grind at the end of the day. One thing I want to ask you about that you just jogged my memory about is like, okay, so people make fun of food influencers for this very specific thing. I always see TikToks about it, and they're like an influencer when they go to a restaurant, and it's like, oh, I love it. Best thing I ever had. 10 out of 10, you know? And so I think about that when I used to do my Disney influencing days, and I would try foods and stuff. And they're like, because I do love Disney, I would never be like, this is trash, you know?
Right.
You know, but I would
Disney's watching right now. He's like, I love Disney.
I love it. Oh my God, every food, they make it so good. Oh my God. But like, you know, I would I probably would be like, okay, that's an 8 for me out of 10. When maybe in my head I was like, this is actually a 0. I would just rate it lower in my head than I would be like, oh my God, this is the best thing. So how do you feel about when these businesses, small businesses, are paying newer creators or influencers to try their food, to try their restaurant? Because as you said, you're getting paid to advertise for them, but do you have to automatically say everything tastes great? And where's the gray area with the influencing and being honest?
I definitely think it's up to the influencer themselves on how they want to approach this, because at the end of the day, that trust with your audience is on your back, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very, very always maybe a little bit concerned sometimes about it. I'm always like, what? People come up to me and they tell me, I go to these spots because you recommended it, right? And they're so good. I've never had someone go up and be like, this place sucks. Or I've had any DMs, because usually, like I mentioned before, I go out to these places, I pay my own money and I go eat. So I have the luxury of deciding if I don't like something, I don't have to post it, right? My thing is, if I didn't have a good experience or the food isn't good, I don't have to post that video, because why would I hurt the business, right? I'm not a critic. But I'm also, that's why I think the line is so different for everyone, because some people want to be like critics and they want to be reviewers and they want to be these things. But I always just, like we talked about, personality is so important. And for me, it's showcasing my personality and my experience and what I liked about the experience or whatever it is. And that to me is very honest and very authentic to me. That's the thing I can do best at. And if I like something, you'll see it. But if I don't like something, you won't see the video, because I don't think there's a reason to put down a business.
I love that point of view.
Have you ever told a business, I'm not going to post this video for you guys, and not taken their money?
Ooh, someone did give me something and I didn't like it, and I paid them for it. I was like, hey, I really appreciated that you gifted me this to try, but I actually didn't like this and I don't feel comfortable sharing it.
Ooh.
So let me just pay for the product.
Wow, but see, I love that. Wow.
Yeah, no,
Great person here.
I was like, what was that reaction from them?
They were just like, oh, can you give us feedback? Da, da, da. Thank you. They didn't want to take my money, but I didn't feel right. I was like, I just, you still have products, you have to make ends meet. But I did give them feedback. But I could tell they were very unhappy because they unfollowed me after. But that's just tea. It is what it is. I was just trying to help. I was
you were just trying to help, and I honestly think your honesty was appropriate.
Yeah.
The way you handled that to me was 0 notes, because it's again, your audience wants to trust you.
Right.
And so hey, I thank you for giving me this thing, but I don't like it. So here's money to appreciate what you gave me.
Yeah,
and
right.
For your time, honestly.
Yeah, that's sad. I mean, they could have maybe came back at a later time with used your feedback and given you something else instead of severing a tie.
That would have been a good PR move, but it's okay. I mean, I publicly didn't say anything bad anyways. So it was just
fine.
It is what it is. I feel at the end of the day, I can only handle situations with my best integrity and my best heart, and not everything else is out of my control.
So in your journey getting into food and content creation, when did it finally click to you that this is what you wanted to do? And then when did it become something you could build a living on and stake that on?
Love that.
That's pretty good.
She's good.
She's very good.
I do interviews.
She's very good.
Thank you.
Whew, I think about it every day, because I've always loved food, but then my relationship with food got a little bit difficult.
That was one of my questions, because I know you're on a fitness journey as well. And so how does that tie into everything?
It was a little difficult at one point, and I don't think I even talked to my audience about this because it was so personal. But at one point, ever since I was younger, you guys know my lore and history, I've always been working or doing something that's very important to me, and that's always been my identity. Yeah. So when food became that identity, every time I filmed, I was like, well, if I'm eating and it's for work, it's okay. So I would be eating 4 or 5 different meals because I was like, I need to batch, I need to film. Yeah, it's that I was like, oh no, I have to keep working. I have to do this. And then eventually, last year, I went on this whole journey where I was like, I need to work on my mental health and my physical health, because that alignment was not there. And I could feel it in my content. And what I was pushing out was about quantity, and it wasn't about quality.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I was like, that's not representative of how I am now. Maybe at that point in life, and I never look back at any part of my life and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that, because everything led to where I am today.
Yeah.
And that at one point was how the algorithm at TikTok worked, how, you get the momentum going.
Yeah.
You want to keep it going.
Yeah. You have to keep posting, keep posting.
And the thing about food is, that's what it is. I had to eat. I don't like spit out my food. I don't like throw away.
Well, that's what
that's
I was
what it
going to
is.
actually ask you that, because like when I'm watching food creators and sometimes they go to a restaurant, right? And they're like, okay, we tried the lobster risotto and the burger and the fries and the this and the this. And it's like 2 people, right?
Yeah.
So my brain goes, okay, I'm appreciating this because I'm getting to learn about multiple different dishes, right? So I'm glad you're trying all these things. But then I think also to myself, you're just 2 people. Do you eat all of that? Do you just taste it? Does the restaurant care? Like, so how is that balance when you're figuring out like, oh, I want to do 4 videos at 4 restaurants, but I don't eat it all? Do I just take a couple bites?
Have you just stopped
I
doing that?
just don't know how we did it back then. But honestly, like I mentioned, when I first started, we had like a core group of friends, and we would go to these restaurants together, and we would order everything, and we would just like, it used to be everyone just taking pictures, so it was a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But now that like people have to like eat and stuff, it is difficult, and I know a lot of people have like leftovers that they take home, and they give it to like their roommates or their neighbors or like whatever it is. But nowadays, I feel like when I film, if it's just me, I usually order what I can eat, and that's like it.
Yeah.
I like don't try to overdo it. I try to like really focus on like maybe 3 items that I really want to eat, like an appetizer, an entree, and like a dessert, right? Like a portioned out meal.
Yeah.
But if I'm ordering food with my friends, and my friends, we're all big backs, which I love, because
we're all big
we
backs
love it.
is iconic.
We go out and we're like, okay, let's order this, let's order this, let's order that.
Yeah.
But you know what? When you have numbers like that, it's okay. Like we're all eating, we're all enjoying. It's like fine. We usually don't have any food waste anymore.
That's
That's
good.
good. And so, but you decided somewhere in that journey that you wanted to personally cut back and go on a fitness journey.
Yes.
Which we've been seeing, and I love the pivot, honestly. But just because I love seeing the food stuff, and I love that for you, but I think it's like important as creators to grow.
Right.
And that was, something I really wanted to ask you about is when in that journey for you, did you know that maybe, and we'll get to, K-pop and your blog, which was such a successful, huge thing for
Brooke
you to
just
then
wants to get to this K-pop
pivot.
moment.
I mean, always for you to pivot into something else and kind of let the other thing go. When in that journey were you kind of like, okay, this is done now? I feel like you have 3. When I see you, I think of 3 different eras.
I'm almost like Taylor Swift. One day.
Girls' Generation. Oh yeah, maybe Taylor Swift someday. Girls' Generation, and then you have food, and now you have fitness.
I think it's more like lifestyle now. I feel like I do more lifestyle than everything.
Lifestyle's a good
Yeah.
way to...
That makes sense. Yeah. So did you ever have to make a conscious decision for that? Or was it just kind of like, nah, this is what I'm doing now?
You know what? I always think how scary it is. And it was really scary because when I started my Food with Soy page, it was my personal page. It was just my personal page. And it was just like people that followed me because of Soshified.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
really?
It was all Girls' Generation fans. And I made I was like, you know what? I already have like, I think maybe like 10,000 or 8, like something around 10,000 followers on that page at that time. And I was like, I'm just going to like post about food because that's what I enjoy now, and that's what it is. Like, I just have to make that pivot, because if you're always making sure your current audience is happy, but you're not happy, then they're going to eventually see that, right? It's better to attract the audience that is welcoming you at every evolution than it is to stay at a level where you're like, okay, I feel safe because this is going to do well, because one day it's not going to do well.
Hello.
And then you're stuck with the idea that lost identity. And I feel like a lot of times people feel lost. It isn't because it's not because they haven't found themselves, but they haven't been able to meet themselves at the level that they're at right now.
Right.
They're unwilling to, because they're used to like comfort and safe and like being at that level. So I think a lot of things in my life, I've unfortunately, because in Aries, I'm a little impulsive sometimes. I'm just like, well, if I don't try it now, when am I going to try it?
Yeah,
that's true.
Always try. And I think that to me is a great, advice for a content creator or people out there that are trying to be content creators. It's like, post what you want. People get so nervous about whether something flops, whether something isn't successful or whatever.
Yeah.
Just post your content. The audience that you deserve will find you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting though. Like, did you ever feel like you were like, have you been, I guess, maybe abandoned by your Girls' Generation followers because now you do food? I mean,
yeah, it makes sense. Even me, right? Like, I grow attached to certain artists or things I enjoy, and then I get older and I'm not aligned with them anymore, and it's okay. I don't take it personally, you know? But I still have people that follow me from Soshified days, and anytime I post anything Girls' Generation related, they're like so excited. Like, I'm so glad you still love Girls' Generation. I'm like, yeah, like that's a part of who I am. I love them. I'm not going to stop loving them just because I also love food. We're multifaceted human beings,
I want to ask you a question though before we like full throttle into that too.
I have one more too.
Yeah,
I'm open air.
We love you.
With with you mentioned the TikTok algorithm and how you kind of have to like continue to push like every single day or else it forgets you. Do you think, and I've always wanted to ask a creator this who like relies on social media, so between the algorithms on like a YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, do you ever feel like they're being predatory to some extent? Because they need content creators to dedicate so much of their time and life and effort, or else they get dropped. Do you know what I mean?
Like, you're saying they are forcing you to post more content.
Yes,
basically.
It's almost like it doesn't matter the quality of the content. If you don't post 3 times a day, then you're going to fall out of the algorithm.
I don't know, because lately they've been giving like different feedback about how like they tell creators like, oh, you shouldn't post as much, or like you should like be intentional with your posting. And like it's shifted a lot.
What a shift.
Yeah,
it's such a big shift.
That's crazy.
And I think honestly, I look at it from like an audience perspective a lot of times.
Yeah.
Before everything else, I'm an audience member. Like I watch content all the time, right? And everyone else in the world does too. But during the pandemic, we had a lot more time.
Yeah.
And I think that's when everyone was posting so much. Because it's the economics of it, right? There's a high demand. People are making a lot of content. And now I feel like a lot of people are back to their day-to-day. You know, the festivals are back.
Yeah.
People want to leave their house. They want to go out. They want to have real-life social interactions. People aren't watching enough content. But there's seems to be an influx of people wanting to make content
because of everybody that jumped off during the pandemic. I saw that happen in real time, because so many people jumped off on the pandemic and started making money and started becoming hundreds of thousands of followers, that everybody wants to be an influencer.
Right.
Yep.
So it's just like influencers influenced people to want to be influencers, but like now there's too much content. There's so much to shift through. So I guess I can understand why you would want to pull back and be more intentional.
Has that affected your reach?
I think honestly, it was really helpful that I took that last year to really focus on my mental health and physical health, because I realized that a lot of my attachment was to the idea like if I don't always post, I'm going to be irrelevant.
Yeah, right.
But
and that's what I'm saying. That's why I use the word predatory, because I feel like at some point the companies, and I remember this because I've worked for a label too, they are just kind of like, give us more, you know, like you're nothing if you don't post like every 2 hours. And that's, anyway, go on.
I think it's more, at the time, I think it was just a lot of people were watching content.
Yeah, it was
so I think it's so
much
different right now.
And then I wanted to ask about content with like sustaining income. Like at what point in your career did you feel like, okay, I can do this without having to worry about having another job? And do you think that's something people should aspire to do?
Oh, this is a tricky question for sure, because as someone that's like, I mean, I grew up in Florida. My mom was a nail tech. Her job, she made like $20,000 annually, right? She raised 6 kids with that.
That's crazy.
So when I got my job offer in LA and it was like $30,000,
you were like,
I was like, this is crazy. My mom raised 6 kids with this. I was humbled so quick.
$30,000 in LA?
Your mom was different.
Good luck.
I still have no idea how I survived that first 2 years in LA. I lived in some like studio back house in Burbank.
Oh, well, that's kind of dope. I mean, I had like 6 roommates at one point.
See, the story of you just gotta like, sometimes you just gotta make those sacrifices. But I think because, you know, like for me, like every opportunity I've gotten, I just feel very blessed coming from where I did. And I'm just like, wow, like beyond just living some like a dream, this wasn't even my dream to begin with. Like I just wanted to like have financial stability, because I never had that growing up, be able to help my mom, which I've been able to do. I've been able to be a role model to my brothers and my sister, and just have that opportunity to get out of where I came from, you know? Oh, Tetris, you're gonna make me cry. Why are you have tears?
Like,
oh my God, why do you have tears? Tetris
he cries.
I cry. I'm a
So
crier.
I think about it all the time, like, you know, like sometimes when I look at these like brand deals and these opportunities I get, I'm like, wow, like this is incredible. Like I'm some kid from Florida. And now, you know, Disney wants to work with me, or like, you know, all these brands that I grew up looking at and just idolizing, like they know who I am. And I think that shows the power of just not influence, but I feel like impact. And I think that's what I realized last year. It's not about just making, you know, like having that influence, but also making an impact on people's lives. And I think that's like really where I saw my place in it being. And I've been able to really like, like I make a full-time living and I do make really good money off of this, but there's also like taxes and paying my managers and like everything else that is also, I don't think people look at, and they don't realize like some months you might be making like $0. But then some months you're making like $50,000, $60,000, right? It's very unpredictable at times. And I remember seeing those videos during the pandemic where people were like, quit your 9-to-5 job and pursue content creation. And I was like, that is so dangerous.
Yeah.
That is not something to recommend to everyone, because it's not just about working hard. It's not just about following your dreams. Sometimes opportunities come at different times, and it's not necessarily about you or your work ethic or any of that stuff. And sometimes you don't have that opportunity, and that's not really your fault either, you know?
Yeah.
So when I saw those videos, I got kind of like a little bit triggered, because I was like, oh, like as someone that's done startup life, that's done this creator content life, that's freelance, and done like corporate life and everything else, I honestly think the best way is if you were born a Nepo baby. I think that's like the best way.
We know.
Honestly,
We all know.
it's the best way.
Like, because honestly, every path has its own level of stress, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to know that no matter what it is, you're willing to make those sacrifices to make whatever it happen. And sometimes, like, even if you make those sacrifices, it won't happen, is another thought process that people don't realize.
It's very tricky. And I think, I always say, I do think you have to try to focus on one or the other. Obviously, there's people that can do both.
Right.
But I even think of like when I was after pandemic doing the Disney influencing, like my page jumped off, I was making money, it was great. But once regular work picked back up, I couldn't handle both for my own mental health and for life. I just I was stressed out trying to think about posting content, but also go to work. And then I think about, I'm sure, do you know Magical Millennial Megan?
Yes.
She's a really big Disney influencer. And I know she was doing kind of both, and then it got to the point where it was too much for her. Now, she's one of the bigger Disney influencers. She travels for it.
Yeah. Yep.
She can do that as its own thing. But I think, again, you have to, like, trying to do both is a little bit crazy. So I wouldn't say quit your job, but definitely know that influencing is a full-time hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is it's a hustle for sure. It's like a grind.
If you don't mind me asking, and you can decline this question, what is takes a drink of water. What is the most you have made from a single brand partnership? And then how much did you keep from said partnership?
See, there's a thing we have to start doing. This has to become a wine podcast. If the wine was pouring, we get more people
I told
talking.
Carlos we need like the couch moment. We need to just like sink into a
No,
couch
it's
with
just
some
I'm
wine.
just like so bad with money.
Okay.
Like I try not to look at it. Like that's why I have a manager and stuff. Like
Smart.
I don't think everyone should have a manager, because I feel like people are like, oh, that makes me like for sure like the thing, right? Like what is it? It makes them
like a big headed or like
no. It makes them feel like there's not someone. I feel like that's wrong.
Like imposter syndrome?
No, like getting a manager makes you like you've made it or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I see what
But
you're
I don't
saying.
think that's always the case, because I've had
Oh,
very
got
bad
it.
management situations, and I've had like
100%.
managers steal like so much money from people and everything.
yeah.
So like for me,
That's true,
that's why I have a manager, because they negotiate the deals, right? And then I have a business manager who handles like my taxes and my business flow and everything.
Smart.
So I don't really have to look at the numbers too much. But I can tell you that I remember when I started influencing, I would make I was really happy to get like my first $1,000, right?
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is amazing, $1,000 to make a video,
Made it.
love it,
Yep.
right? But now I would say like maybe like, oh, that was a pretty big one. I did like a YouTube. It was like, it was a lot of videos though. It was like a whole situation with
A package.
yeah, it was like $80,000.
That's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
$80,000.
Wow.
that's pretty
That's
good.
amazing. That
Yeah,
is
no, I
amazing.
remember even like Chris Olsen, the one time he was like posting and he said, like, I made $1 million. And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To be able to do that
Yeah.
all on your own without, well, of course, again, you have managers, agents, and all the things, but like to make your own brand and be able to make that is an accomplishment that I feel like deserves more respect. That people tend to
Absolutely.
not respect influencers sometimes. We all know
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And I think that you wanted to say, oh, the actors get the respect or the musicians. And they're all great and talented people too, but they have a talent and that's what makes them their money, their album or their movie or whatever. But to be able to make the money off of you,
Yeah, 'cause
just
I'm not a
being
Chris Olsen,
yourself
like-
is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's
Absolutely.
like basically they're paying for like a production house, right? Like someone to film, edit, be the face of it, and also like do basically the marketing as well. So I feel like you're getting a really good deal sometimes.
Yeah.
100%.
So last question
you wanna
about the
dig into.
food. The food. Well, hold on. So in this circle, because you've mentioned you have used to have a circle of friends. in like the food space and everything. And I mean, is it the same as like the K-pop space where you guys all kind of like know each other at some point, or like you've heard of each other? Like
it's got to be, because just like the Disney influencer community, it's also a small. Everybody know each other.
Yeah,
you
for
guys,
sure.
Like, kind of know whatever. Is there any kind of like beef that happens behind the scenes in like the food space?
See, this is when we need the wine.
I know. I have a Celsius. Sponsor us.
Honestly, I feel like the food space is a lot safer than other spaces because
I was wondering.
It's a lot like I have friends that are in the beauty industry, and that is a little different, and you can tell by like events.
Yeah.
If you go to different events, you can kind of feel the energy of the spaces, and it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
There's people that I like started on Instagram with that I was so grateful to see them also grow at with making videos as well. Like they saw me pivot, they wanted to pivot.
Yeah.
And now we're all like doing really well and thriving and making content, and we just hang out when we've known each other for like 7 or 8 years.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that we were able to grow together. But then I've also met like new content creators that I've become friends with, and I also really like them as well. And I think it's because that connection with food is just so fun. Like we're just eating out together.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not that serious, right?
The beauty and fashion space, I know personally, not because I'm one, but I have quite a few friends who are in those spaces, and they pay out quite well as well. You know, like they're all making money, they're all doing their thing, whatever. But I would say that is not something that I now know about, I would want to be a part of, if that makes any sense. That's not kind of like a path I would want to go down, but I'm glad food is better. I was wondering if it was like a better kind of
I think so. I think the
vibe.
atmosphere is like more like, okay, we're like enjoying food, we're sharing food.
Yeah, that's
So like,
nice.
there's no drama here.
I mean,
Yeah.
We're just eating and having a good time.
there is drama, but it's usually just like very like behind the scenes. Like we're no longer friends with someone because of something, but it's like more personal related than actual like
Content
anything
creating
else.
related.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to Soshified.